Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right. Whew, man, it's hot out here. It ain't overly hot in comparison to what we're used to for the summertime, but given the fact that it had come down to about 72 degrees, hiking back up to 85 does feel a little uncomfortable, but it ain't real heat. Not what we've been dealing with all summer. So, yeah. Feel pretty good. Got everything I needed. Everything fell into place the way I hoped it would. Glad I got an AC room for a day like today. Everything is pretty solid, man. Just thinking about what's ahead in regards to myself. Of course, I said I got this thing that potentially could be going on the 28th. The last psychological evaluation I set up myself, this one is done by SSI. I don't really feel the desire to do this. As I told you guys, SSI sent my uncle some paperwork essentially saying they want me to have a psych eval. But it's not like they have information available to them when they sent that I had already had one. I don't know how long he's had this in his possession. So for all I know, this is a bit of an older bit of mail. But it came my way yesterday, or yeah, when I checked out, I saw it at the door. So yesterday, the day before yesterday. Was that yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. But whatever the case may be, it was sitting there, and I cracked it open and essentially said they want you downtown on the 28th for that evaluation. So I don't know, man. I'm like, all right, do I really need to have this evaluation? I was told I don't need to do two of them for any reason. So it should only be one, and they should be able to get all they need from that evaluation. So I'm hoping that's what it is, and if that's the case, I will not need to get it done on the 28th. So that's kind of what's on my mind. It's just, do I have to do this again? It was a tedious one, and I don't know if it's the same thing. I'm not sure every psych eval is the same way. They might have different paperwork, different ways of doing things. Who knows, right? I don't know. But the one I just had was taxing in and of itself. I am not ready to have another one just a month later, pretty much. So, yeah, that's what's going on, man. What else is happening, man? I don't know. I'm pretty proud of myself for pushing myself to continue to climb hills. I didn't really feel like doing it today. Felt a little mentally lazy, but it didn't stop me from getting it done. And my body reacted very well to it. I could tell the strength that I've been putting on over the last month or so is really starting to work. Some of the soreness that I was feeling these last 2 weeks, I'm starting to see the results of what happens when that soreness goes away and that muscle comes in. And so I've definitely been pleased with that aspect of things. And I could tell climbing up the steps and stuff like that, my body just feels a little stronger. It fluctuates, to be honest with you. Sometimes you really have it, other times you don't. But like I said, I've been pushing regardless on my exercise, so it stands to reason why my body will finally start to feel like it's coming into form. So yeah, that's not important. What else is going on? I found some weed. I did find some marijuana on the way here. I ain't purchased none, but I found it. I picked it up, put it in my bag, and now I'm praying about how to handle it, because you guys know I'm a pothead. I am, but I also value my sobriety. You know what I mean? So it's one of them situations where it's like, I don't expect that I will spiral in any way, but it does stand to reason that this is something to not take lightly for myself, that I was so quick to pick it up. And it's in a substantial amount too. It's not a little bit of amount. So I don't know, I might throw it away. I'll give it some prayer. I mean, I had been wanting to smoke a little bit here and there, but not get back into it. Just something that accompanied me with my art, something that accompanied me with my playlist curation, something that accompanied me when I just feel like it. But there are a lot of positives about not smoking weed that I've come to value a lot. Not having black lips, not having memory issues and verbal issues, for which are really important to me. And then some of the psychological stuff, self-conscious type things that come about when I have to be high around other people. I just don't miss any of that. So, it's up in the air for me. I want to try the weed a little bit, but I don't want to find myself getting back into a space like I was when I was addicted to weed. I don't harbor those same desires. I value my sobriety. And so a lot of this just betrays that sobriety. It makes me wonder if the devil put that there for me to pick up. You know what I mean? Seriously. And so it is what it is, you guys. Like I said, if in a perfect world for me, I'd have more of a stranglehold on all these type of things to say discipline is what I can work with. I can smoke a little bit and not worry about turning back into a full-fledged addict, for which is a problem for me. I think I do have an addictive personality, though it doesn't show up in a lot of areas. When it comes to marijuana, it shows up. When it comes to my vices, it shows up. So for me, it's just like I've always had the idea that it's all or nothing. Either I don't touch anything or I'm constantly wanting it all the time. And so that's where I would really love to grow and ultimately just find some balance. And I was talking about that with my sister. She was saying how she's strong in that area. She's the type of person who doesn't have an addictive personality at all. She can try something and then leave it alone, you know what I mean? As to where a lot of people have cravings and addictions and stuff like that. She doesn't fancy herself being that type of person. I was like, that's because I took all of that. You didn't get any of that DNA because it went all into me. And so I feel very strongly that, this is something I probably should not touch. I probably shouldn't. But I also feel very strongly as a person from Los Angeles. And if you see weed on the ground, you're going to pick it up and then figure out later. Because weed is expensive. It equals money. It equals relaxation. It equals all the positives and the negatives that come with it. So my instincts kicked in immediately when I saw it and just scooped it up. Yeah, figured it out later, man. But yeah, that's really what it is, man. So I'm just telling y'all early, before I even touch that weed, that I found some. I did not purchase it. I don't intend to purchase any. This is kind of how I want my weed experiences to be for the rest of my life. If I find some, I smoke it. Otherwise, I'm not looking for it. I'm not paying for it. That's kind of how I look at it. And as a result, I haven't found it but once or twice since I've been in this situation. You know what I mean? My friend gave me some once and it wasn't very good. It reminded me why I don't like to smoke some anymore, So that's really what the truth is, man. I'm transparent with everybody. I don't think it's anything wrong with recreational marijuana usage. I really don't. I just think that I have a problem with it. It's a problem for me and has been since I was about 13 years old. You know what I mean? And so as someone who loves it but doesn't love me, it becomes a real war that has to be fought. And so that's really what I'm telling y'all, man. It just is what it is. I don't think this is good for anybody who's addicted to something to just go toward it or find it or anything. You probably just won't want it in your life. But the strength of leaving it when you find it, that's a hard thing. Especially when you don't necessarily hate it. You know what I mean? I don't hate it. I just need to find discipline when using it and discipline to further, as I found, stay away from it. And so that's just what the truth is, man. But yeah, man, it is what it is. I walk down the street knowing that I have some on me, and that's a weird feel. It's a weird thing. It is weird because it's not a part of my life anymore. You know, I mean, it really isn't. But there are times when I think, you know what, this would be a great time for it. This would be the time where I want to smoke. And in those times, I kind of wish I had some. You know what I mean? That's just the truth. Any medication can be utilized for good. Any excess amounts of it can be bad for you or lethal. We need to understand that about anything that you do. Any type of medication, any type of doctoring up type chemicals, make your food taste better, seasoning, anything that's meant to either enhance or put you in a different mindset or take away pain or anything like that. Any of those type of things, if you have the right amount, whatever that looks like, it can be fine or even very good. If you have too much of it, it can be extremely bad. And that is something that if you can't measure that out properly, or if you don't know how to cap yourself off to the point where you've had too much, then it doesn't matter what it is we're talking about. You can do harm to yourself, or make it an addictive type of situation, abuse it or whatever. You don't want to do that. So that's where I need to grow for me, is when is enough? When have I had enough? When is it when you shut it off? When do you realize, I've crossed over that threshold, now it's time to get some help and pull back? That's where I think all the people who have addictive personalities must work on themselves to whatever degree is necessary. So yeah, man, I think for me, I want to say that we're all human beings. We're all trying to fight the struggle of life in our own respective corners, whatever it is that we're dealing with. Some people worry about this, some people deal with that, some people struggle with this, some people have a hard time putting a cap on that. But at the end of the day, the human experience is a fluid one, and it's all about the decisions that we make, the choices that we make. The roads that we're willing to walk down. This is what I was talking about as I was walking down the street, and I found that weed. This is what I was talking about. Is the choices that we make, and not somewhere along the lines of not doing too much or too little, not overthinking or assuming that things are going to be a certain way, and making up your mind. That's what it was. Not making up your mind that things are going to be a certain way when you don't know what comes with what. In my head, I think that me having a little weed on me could tumble forward to me being a full-fledged pothead, buying weed with money I don't have again, and ultimately prioritizing it over everything else and all the negative aspects that come with that. It doesn't have to be that way. It don't have to be that way, but it certainly can, and I give respect to that. But I think the idea is to not assume that we know what comes with what just because we've experienced certain things. Not to will ourselves toward the negative consequences by spiraling upon things appearing a certain way. And we talked about that for a good hour today. Encourage you guys to check out the video I made. So this is not that much different, but you do want to be cautious. It's to say not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything that you want is good for you, and things that you've struggled with, you could very well struggle with again. So that caution needs just as much balance as your intake or whatever it is. That balance to say it could be. You don't want to lean one way or another to give yourself passes for whatever your behavior is. Stay in the middle in regards to what it is that you're thinking. And know that it could be either way. And know that your choices will ultimately determine what takes place. And so to choose wisely in whatever it is that you do. And forgive yourself for mistakes. So, how we doing? All right. And so that's really what it is for me, man. I just wanted to be transparent, tell people, hey, this is what I found. This is what it is. Yeah, I picked it up. Yeah, I want it, but I'm not really sure I should. And if you're living through something like that, or if you have something that you struggle with, don't think that just because I'm up here talking to people about things that are important to me, that I don't struggle with everyday life, that I don't struggle with temptation, that I don't struggle with my own demons. You know what I mean? I do. And I think that being able to admit that makes you more credible, not less credible. I think that if you're able to tell people, hey, this is what I struggle with, when you tell people, hey, look over there, there's something serious over there, they'll listen to you more so than you saying, I don't ever struggle with nothing, and go look over there and see what's over there. Nah, I think this gives me more credibility. I think I trust somebody more who says, hey, I struggle in this area. And I'm honest with you about something that I see that nobody else is willing to talk about, like the genocide in Palestine. I'm not some holier than thou priest walking down the street on cloud 9. I'm still susceptible to all the temptation out here in these streets like everybody else. And I hope to handle it the way that I most think is wise. But temperament has a lot to do with choices just as much as understanding the wisdom. It's to have the temperament from which to engage in that wisdom. Some people just don't have that temperament. Sometimes you may not feel strong enough to engage in what you feel is wise. Sometimes you feel weak. Sometimes you're so scared that you just do the wrong thing, even though you know better. Even though you know you're supposed to apply your faith. You may not be strong, and this is where your faith comes in to help you find that strength. This is when the practice of prayer comes in to help you with that. Upon when needing it, it will have it. Or upon when needing it, it'll be on the way. That's why I tell people, pray all the time, not just when convenient. Pray all the time. Not just when you need strength, but pray for strength when you feel like you have it, when nothing's wrong. So that leading up to when things do go wrong, you'll already be in, if nothing else, the practice of prayer, which is really helpful, I believe. Practice of prayer. Because when I was going through being displaced from this last apartment of mine, that was the struggle that I was having, was turning to God, not really sure if he was pleased with me. Knowing that I had been doing a bunch of things on my own accord that led to all the circumstances for which I needed God. And I hadn't really been talking to God very much. I've been doing my own thing leading up to that. So then it was like, can I talk to him? Do he want to hear from me? Is he angry with me? Is he going to have favor? I don't know if that trust is in place because I hadn't been communicating the whole time. Just like with any other relationship, you don't really know if somebody's interested in hearing from you. You don't know where they're at in their life, so to speak. And when it came to God, that was what it was. When I needed him the most, it was like, okay, let me turn to him. But it's like, man, we ain't talked in a while. How you feel about me? You've been watching everything I've been doing. I ain't been paying you no attention hardly. When everything was fine, I didn't come to you. I think that's the key, to come to him when things are fine too. To make it a practice like everyday living, to check in with God, and that's what it is I've been trying to do. And even though I prayed, I had the list and all of that stuff that I was praying for, it wasn't that I was trying to actively be obedient or actively be present. I would just say my little chants and then proceed to do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't really have a relationship with God. I had a relationship with the structure of applying faith in prayer, but not really applying it as it pertains to my everyday walk. There was no willingness to sacrifice. I did what I wanted to do. You see what I'm saying? And that's where people need to really be careful. Because that was a struggle I had. I was praying every day. I was praying, but I wasn't actually communicating with God or looking to be obedient when he would suggest. I wasn't listening to that voice in my head. I would just pick an hour to pray, say my little chants, ask for a bunch of things, and then walk away. That's not the relationship that God wanted me to have with him. That wasn't efficient in making me feel comfortable coming to him when I had a problem with my own situation. Because I was talking at God, I wasn't speaking with God. That's the difference between what it's been over the last 2 years and what it was leading up to that. I was talking at God. God was a concept that I was looking to obey to make myself feel good. And to make myself feel like my people I cared about were covered. That's what I have to be honest with myself about. It wasn't until I stepped into situations where I needed to lean on God that I knew God was going to be there for me. That he was going to have my back. I knew he existed. I believed he existed, but it was not a relationship there. And I was doing everything I wanted to do. I was toying around with the devil's energy, my own energy, whatever I wanted to do. Just whatever. Wasn't listening to that voice. Wasn't listening to see if that voice was even there in some cases. I'm doing my own thing, until it was time for me to really trust God. Then it was like, okay, let me turn to him in fear. I'm terrified. Let me turn to God. Like, no, that's not what works. That's not what works. What works is coming to him all the time. Working that into your everyday toothbrush type routine. Being there and communicating with him and then listening to that voice and following it, even if it goes against your own intentions. Even if it goes against what makes you feel comfortable. See video earlier where I said don't assume that things are going to be a certain way because they appear a certain way. This is when you really apply that. As a God say, no, put the weed down. You don't need to smoke that. And you're saying, man, I want to smoke some weed out. And you do what you want to do. That's when you find yourself in trouble. That's when you find yourself further and further away from God. And that obedience, that listening to that voice inside of you, and coming to God and praising him for your day, even when the day is not, when nothing's going on. You know, keeping that constant communication. That's what really works. That's what'll make you feel good coming to God when you absolutely need to, because it won't be a foreign feeling. And I think a lot of people in this Christian religion specifically, and especially in American Christianity, that's how they apply God, the way that I said. And they're talking at God. They're not talking to God, and they're certainly not looking to follow his intentions. They're looking to follow the word in the book that's represented in what he said 7,000 years ago or whatever. You see what I'm saying? And they think they don't actually have a real God that they serve. They serve the purpose of the structure of the religion. And as a result, they end up betraying the spirit of God's intentions, which was kindness, humility, and being humble, being welcoming, taking on whatever sacrifice is necessary to fulfill that in every form possible. They ain't doing that. They're not willing to sacrifice their own proximity to whiteness, their own proximity to comfort. They don't trust God enough to say, yo, these people we may think that they might not be right, but we are going to allow for the Spirit of Jesus Christ to align us with the kindness that ultimately he taught. They betray the teachings in trying to follow the religion, because it's not about Christ. It's about following one another down the path of structured religion. That's why in my mind, Christianity at this point, currently constructed by white supremacy, is not Christianity spelled C-H. It's K-K-K-H. Because it ain't got nothing to do with Jesus Christ. It has everything to do with white supremacy and its agreement to structure itself using Christianity as a means to do so, to structure itself in unison with one another. It ain't about Christ, it's about white. And that's what I come to understand. That's what a lot of us are coming to understand as we continue to listen to people talk. Shunning everybody that don't look like them, and then saying, well, we don't mean to be offensive, but they proceed to tell you Jesus Christ is the only God, and then proceed to tell you why they don't need to follow any of what it is he's talking about. They say they're following him. How does that make any sense? They're going to beat you into submission in the name of something that always forgave, that always was willing to sacrifice, that always was willing to be around people who didn't have it all together. How does that even make any sense? Well, it doesn't have to make any sense, because they don't actually know Christ. They know one another, and Christ is who they say they do this for. But they don't even know him. And if they did know him, they would shun him. That's the part we need to understand about the KKK Christians. They would shun him. The moment they had an opportunity to meet the actual Christ, regardless if he looked like them or looked like me, the moment he opened his mouth and showed his true intentions, he would betray everything that they actually stand for, especially as it pertains to this particular country. They would be like, nah, this ain't really it. Let's try to venture away from this person. He's lost his way. That's exactly what they say. They wouldn't follow him down a path of being kind to everybody and opening their borders and not lying about this or not aligning with those evil ass Israel. As soon as Jesus Christ say free Palestine, they would have a real problem with it. As soon as Jesus Christ say, yo, white supremacy, down with white supremacy, I love people of color, they would have a real problem with him. They would have a real problem with Jesus Christ if he didn't agree with what they're talking about. And that's the point. Don't let any of these KKK Christians fool you into thinking that they actually deal with the spirit of Christ. They don't want to have nothing to do with Christ. Not really. What they want to have to do with is one another. And they use him as a means of hovering around. But it ain't really about no Christ. They don't want to have nothing to do with his teachings. His teachings betray everything that they're trying to do. Everything they're trying to do. It betrays everything they're trying to do. And we need to really, really be honest with one another and them about that. It betrays everything they're trying to do. They be like, nah, get this man away from me. He's trying to make us accept people that we don't agree with. He's trying to make us accept people that we're afraid of. He's trying to make us step down and share the wealth that we ultimately have. He's going to tell us to open our doors to people that we would betray our sensibilities for breaking bread with. He have us trying to forgive people that we are angry at. You understand what I'm saying to you? This is the truth about Christianity. It ain't got nothing to do with Christ. Not as currently set up. They will use every bit of the scripture to justify treating people poorly and justify continuing to divide and conquer people and stuff like that. They will use every bit of that to justify white supremacy colonial behaviors in modern times. But then when you just get to the crux of what it is he's telling them to do, suddenly it's like, nah, we don't want to deal with anybody that actually follow those structures. When it comes down to trying to mimic the behavior of Jesus Christ, they would consider it unwise to mimic the behavior that he told you to do. He didn't teach y'all to do some of the stuff y'all doing at all. In fact, this is the enemy of God that wants you to do the things that y'all do. And that's why I tell y'all, man, the more I learn about this religion, the less I want to have anything to do with it. I want to have everything to do with Jesus Christ and the spirit of Christ, the spirit of his teachings, and the reality of his sacrifice. What his example was, I want to live the example of Christ. I do believe in it. I definitely think that the scripture is something to follow and heed. I don't think the people who claim to be Christians actually follow it. I think they're too busy trying to agree with one another to actually try to mimic the behavior. That's why I don't want to have nothing to do with the church, quote unquote, the church. Then why? They teach each other how to be everything but like Christ. Everything but. They ain't willing to sacrifice none of the things necessary to follow the spirit of his kindness and his willingness to sacrifice and his willingness to share and his willingness to accept people. They betray it constantly. And I'm not a follower, so I'm not going to follow them doing that. Was I raised a Christian? Absolutely. Do I practice Christian behaviors? It's the only thing I know. It's the only thing I know. But as I turn to learn about it, the more I realize, that's a perversion of his intention. No different than Zionism is a perversion of Judaism. No different. The same thing. They put Christ at the front of the name of the religion. Those people take over the land and call it Israel so that you'll be confused to think it's the same Israel from the Bible. It is no different. It's the same tactic of the devil, man. White supremacy doing the same devilish thing in a different way. And use it to justify evil. And they've been doing it since the start of this damn country. They did it. They brought that nonsense as a means of making docile all the people that would otherwise hold them accountable for the awful things that they did to them. Call it sophistication, call it religion, call it faith. It's not faith. It's a structure to make docile your victims so that they won't get revenge for the things that you did to them. That's all that is. I can believe in Christ and steer far away from that at the same time. I can definitely do it. I can do both. That's what I want people to understand. I can do both. The devil didn't effectively push me away from Christ by perverting the religion that's named after. Didn't pull it off. Didn't work. I understand that tactics. I understand that tactic. I've seen it in other areas. I'm not confused by it. I know exactly what it's supposed to do. Doesn't work. And I'm teaching the people who follow me that it doesn't work and that they can do both too. You really want to connect with Jesus Christ? You mimic the behavior that he taught. You accept people for who they are, no matter how different they are than you, no matter how much you think God is angry with them, You are not to shun anybody for any of those things. The only thing you shun people for is harming people, harming animals, things that betray compassion. Those are the things that you ultimately hold people accountable for and shun people for. Otherwise, you live and let live, man. And when it comes to the topics of abortion and different things like that, I don't know. I genuinely do not know. I've heard both sides. I don't know. But I can tell you, because I don't know, it's not my place to tell someone what to do. I heard and listened to Charlie Kirk when he explained to all of us how horrible abortion was. For those of us like myself who didn't really know of the process of abortion, when he broke it down and explained what takes place, I can't help but think there's some validity to the idea that it is inhumane to move about that way. I listened to him. I listened to him when he said things I didn't agree with. I listened to him on this too. I heard the man. It's stuck in my head now. I can't see the images of what it is he described. There's some barbaric stuff that you're doing. I get it. I would love for that to not be. I don't understand everything I need to understand to have an educated guess on how to handle that. But what I do know is, if a 9-year-old girl is R-worded and she's at risk to lose her life for giving birth, I don't think the only thing I should be thinking about is the fetus inside of her. I know that. I also understand that we live in a world where people will throw a baby in a trash can upon giving birth to it if they don't want to have that child. A 16-year-old girl would throw a baby in a trash can. A 16-year-old girl will drown a baby if she's not mentally well. She's suffering from postpartum. If you can determine that that child is going to die that way anyway, die one way or another, then why would I choose the baby potentially going down the path in one direction for the sake of trying to save their life in another direction? That's the conundrum in place. That's why I can't lean on one side that says, okay, we just going to have abortion no matter what all the time. Not when I understand what you're doing to the babies inside. Not when I understand it. But I also can't say it isn't a valuable tool for which to save lives too, when I consider how many women have died giving childbirth. So, in the spirit of understanding that this is a conundrum beyond my understanding, I bow away and say I don't know. And I would suggest those who are leaning one way or another do the same exact thing, especially those who in the name of Christianity, KKK Christianity, telling us that we need to discard of any and everybody, giving people the death penalty for having abortions. I know that's not the answer. I know that's not the answer. And I understand something else too. There's something called relatability and context. When you have context to a certain situation because you live it, you experience it, you went through it, you're capable of going through it, you've gone through something like it, so you can at least compare what you've gone through. I can tell you this, as a man, I don't know nothing about that. I can't relate to that. I don't know the mental experience, the spiritual experience, or any other context that would be outside of my ability to fathom in regards to what it is to be pregnant. I don't know what it feels like to be pregnant. I don't know what it feels like to be forced into a space one way or another as it pertains to that situation. I am without context. There could be a rabbit hole there that I don't have any idea is available for me to go down upon experiencing such things. I would just have to listen to somebody who's gone through it to give me their understanding in hopes that it would be good enough for my fathomization. That's about as good as I can do. So as a man, knowing that I don't know the first, second, third, or fourth thing about being pregnant, I can pretty much be certain that I'm not qualified to tell somebody else what to do upon becoming pregnant. Pretty damn certain of that. I think if anybody should be making these decisions, it should be the women who can relate to such experiences. As a man, I have to assume it's in my best interest to accept that I don't have context and to accept that I will never be an expert on the topic. And the arrogance of men will make it so that we will ignore that and then proceed to impose our thoughts upon that for which we know nothing about. And I think that I firmly believe that is a area where humanity is simply lacking evolution. I truly believe that. And that thing that makes people impose their intentions upon those of whom they can't relate to, I think is a deficiency in our overall being at this point. One that I believe will not be in place as we continue to go forward. So allow me to plant that seed. As a guy, removing my ego and my desire to control everybody, especially women, I don't think I know the first thing about what anything in regards to pregnancy. So I feel if I'm going to apply my logic that I apply in other areas and other subjects to this one, I would say I'm not qualified to tell anybody what to do in these situations or what not to do in these situations. I would go as far as to say is even if I learned everything about the subject, there may be some things that I can't understand because I am not going through it and not going to be able to go through it. Hormonal circumstances, spiritual circumstances, instinctual experiences that I just will not be able to understand. That would effectively influence my opinion if I were to be able to. Now, some will say, well, man has a right to, if his child is aborted or not. Men have rights. Hey, man, we do have rights. But my body is my body. Okay? Her body is her body. So as it pertains to what she does with her body, that distinction should apply. It should apply. And if I've done it right as a man, then I've put myself in the best position to have the right mother for my child, so that this ain't that much of a fight when I have desires one way or another. And that's the key to our ego. We need to push our ego in a direction to make sure you do the right things leading up to that point so that you don't have those problems. See what I'm saying? People want to do what they have to do after the fact, and I respect that. After the fact, you gotta take whatever position is best. But your responsibility as a man is to assure that the woman you're with is the right one for the circumstance. That you discipline yourself, sacrifice in the areas necessary. Follow the wisdom of Christ, and you'll be able to do that much easier. But if you sacrifice in the areas where it's best and follow his instinctual intentions upon your conscience, to say, nah, that woman shouldn't be dealt with. Nah, I should probably wrap it up in this situation. Nah, she's too young. Nah, that woman's married. Nah, that girl's giving me red flags. I probably shouldn't. These are the things that men can control, that give them the best opportunity to control those type of things. Your best control over such things is at its base. You want to control what a woman does with her body? Keep your seed in yours. Then you don't have to worry about her having an abortion or your child because you didn't put the seed in the first damn place. That's where we need to get better, man. Don't just bring her around because she fits your aesthetic. This is what we were talking about. Know yourself, understand yourself well enough to say, no, I can't lay down with that person because I'm not going to pull out with that person. Let me put on a condom because I'm not going to pull out with that person. If you have that self-awareness, that self-control, and that discernment, you ain't got to worry about some of these problems because you're not going to have any of them. But unwise people, arrogant, unwise people, after the fact, then want to tell women what to do with the body after they did some unwise and regrettable stuff with that woman. Then you want to say, no, she can't have my baby. No, I don't want to have my baby. You shouldn't have put the baby in her. You should have took the proper precautions to ensure that you had your control at the base of the problem. Not at the tip of the problem, at the base. Grab it at the root. Don't grab a leaf talking about you pulling down a damn tree. Cut that mug at the root. Normalize wisdom and following it for the betterment of your future and that of what it is you want to control. Betterment. Discern better. Want better. To be of better wants is what we've been talking about all day. I don't have to take a stern approach to the women I lay down with saying they better have an abortion or better not have an abortion because I'm not giving them the seed. That's where I control that. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect in that area. I'm telling you this is the measure from which to try to aim. This is what you want to be able to control. These things. That is your best control over those things. Bring people towards you for the right reasons. Then everything that transpires from that is blessed. And define the right reasons the right way. This is where we end up going wrong too. Leading people the wrong direction. Having people following worldly culture. Following what the songs say. That song is meant to destroy you. That song ain't meant to do nothing but make you buy it over and over again. It don't even have any purpose other than to attach itself to the weakest aspects of you so you'll be drawn to it and pour your money into it. That's all they're trying to do. They just want you to buy it. They don't even care what you do after that. They know your silly, low frequency gonna follow that stupid stuff because you followed the last 7,000 stupid things they put in your face. They count on you being dumb. And so they pay you very little attention as it pertains to what's best for you because they don't think you're gonna follow it. When we start realizing that we've been having people play in our faces and as a result give us seeds, planting seeds in our minds that lead us toward the worst futures for ourselves and our children, and we're going to understand how to, at the root, catch this stuff and not allow it to even grow. Not let it even get to a point where it is a problem. You start shunning those things that take you down the rabbit hole of these problems. You cut that at the root. This person don't represent me properly, I'm staying away from her. If I'm drawn to her, I'm wrapping it up with her. You understand what I'm saying? Like, these are the type of things you control those circumstances. Talking to my sister in regards to my brother and his circumstances, he's having trouble, man. It starts at the root, bro. Your choices. We got to make good ones. And that doesn't exclude me. That definitely includes myself. I harbor the wisdom, but in the moment, will I have a strong enough relationship with God, strong enough self-control, and the temperament from which to follow the wisdom no matter what sacrifice is necessary to do so? That's the struggle of being a human being. But it's one we need to make normal. We need to focus our cultures and what it is that we're going to do later in regards to culture toward teaching one another how to make that a bit more normal amongst one another. So it can be easier for us to avoid certain circumstances that make us worse, that bring out the worst in us when we try to control them. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all of our music centered itself around helping us with these things? Wouldn't it be great if all of the different things that we saw on television, on TV, and on the news was catered toward trying to make us better human beings in these areas? If we made this as normal as we made marijuana smoking, alcohol, boy, would it be easier to avoid certain nonsense. But when you try to suggest to people how to be more wise, then all of a sudden you're taking their right to be bad people away, and suddenly that's like something to fight about. They ain't gonna fight over genocide. No, we ain't gonna stand for that. But if you take away my right to sin, oh, now we got a problem. You try to feed me something that's gonna make me better, make me stronger, and make me more likely to be able to live without certain things that I have no business having any dang way. Oh, now you're trying to preach to me. This is how the devil's controlled this earth, man. Doing this in little pockets of the earth all over the place where humans are found. Doing that nonsense. Making y'all shun fruit and crave poison. Come on, man. It's the truth, you guys. We would avoid so many of these problems that we struggle with every day if we would just make normal the path to controlling the controllables, catching problems at the root, and not allowing them to spring out issues that are going to be stressed over, that are going to make us depressed, that are going to make us desperate, that are going to make us worse, make us essentially not trust or believe in anything good in this world. It starts with some of the things that we welcome in our hearts, welcome in our lives, man. I tell you, if we really want to win these battles, and I think we do, we're going to make normal some things that we're afraid to, like making ourselves better human beings by catching certain problems at the root. Catch them at the root, man. I've seen cats walk themselves a lot. But dogs, I ain't seen that too often. That dog has a home. He was by himself for about 3 blocks. I've been walking with this dog. And he just ran in the house. A little toddler just let him in the house. Like, that's not how you handle dogs, is it? But I'd imagine dogs are starting to evolve, so I guess you can let them out by themselves. Wouldn't suggest it. But that dog was effectively behaving like a cat. Wasn't nobody walking, he was walking himself. And he came right on in the house. Anyway, if dogs can evolve to walk themselves, I'd imagine we could start catching problems at the root and start avoiding certain things that ultimately make us worse. BDL 44, I thank y'all for watching.